Bhagavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavamahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verses 11 to 20.
अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागम् ततः कुरु यतात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम् अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदम् यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्दधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः.
Welcome to everybody who's joining us for the first time today. This is a regular class we have. Okay, this is our weekly class where we study the Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, and we do it all the time. Now, once a year, what we also do is we take up one chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and Sushila ji comes and gives us a discourse on it. So that happens annually. But since you have all joined us today, welcome. And of course, Sushila ji will be doing the Bhagavad Gita Yajna, as you have been informed, from the 24th. So all those who don't know so far, the annual Bhagavad Gita lecture series commences on the 24th. By Sushila ji, as you are all aware. So good time for us to reach out to people who would like to study one chapter of the Gita and see what it is all about. Now, the current chapter we are on in the class, in our weekly class, is the 12th chapter. And we are doing the 35 qualities of the Bhakta. Verse 14, which we did last time, we did verse 14, right? Last time, we started it. So, it says the quality of a bhakta, the eighth quality is santushta. Santushta means tushta, content. Santushta, completely content. Or all of us are not content about some aspect of our life. It may be wealth, it may be health, it may be relationships, it may be traffic, it may be neighbors. Each one of us are not content about something. Now, the nature of a bhakta is that he is always content. So how is it possible in this world? This world is made up of good and bad. Some good stuff will happen, some bad stuff will happen. So how are you supposed to maintain any form of contentment? I mean, obviously, when things are good, maybe you'll be happy. When things are bad, maybe you'll be unhappy. So how do you maintain any form of contentment here? It's a very simple trick. When the mind is based on something higher in life, when the vision encompasses something much greater, much vaster than yourself, then your personal comfort and discomfort doesn't actually mean anything. if you can conceive as a human being anything vaster and greater and nobler, the personal thing you go through, whatever it is, makes no difference whatsoever. Haven't you seen dedicated people? It could be in anything. Anybody dedicated to anything, his personal comfort doesn't matter to him. You know, even traders, they sometimes get up early in the morning, they go, they open their shops, they stay there all day, they go home late at night. They are dedicated to making money, okay, or looking after their shop or whatever in the world they are doing. All the personal discomfort they go through means nothing. Why? Because beyond the moment, they're able to see something else. A mother tending to her sick child, her personal discomfort means nothing to her because she's able to see beyond the moment. So where does contentment come from? How can you be, in not perfect circumstances and still be content when you can see something beyond the moment? There is a very nice verse in Sanskrit that says, Subhashitam, which goes that for a person who has contentment in his heart, ka dhanvan, ka daridra. Who is daridra and who is dhanvan doesn't make any difference. The whole concept of getting something and then being happy is a primarily erroneous concept. This is very difficult for us human beings to understand. The concept, I will get married, then I will be happy. I will have children, then I will be happy. I will finish my PhD studies, then I will be happy. I will help all the Syrian refugees, then I will be happy. The base concept that something has to happen and then I will be happy. As long as we hold this erroneous notion, we can never be contented. It's just not possible. Because we're always waiting. There's a very famous play in English called Waiting for Godot. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's a really bad play. It's a really bad play in the sense it's one of the classics. And if you haven't read it, I'm not even recommending that you read it. One critic has said it's a play where nothing happens twice because it has two acts and in neither of the two acts does anything happen. These two are waiting for this Godot. Okay, they're just standing there. They're talking absolutely foolish things. There's no sense in that conversation whatsoever. And the end of the first act is they're waiting for Godot. He doesn't come. Then the second act starts. Again, they're talking nonsense to each other and waiting for Godot to come, and he still doesn't come. It's full story. It's a terrible, terrible play when you have to study it. But after you have finished studying it, then it occurs to you that it's actually a great play because it is actually expressing what our life is. We talk rubbish, waiting for something to happen. It doesn't happen. Then we start again. We start talking rubbish again and then wait for something to happen. And that also doesn't happen. So that's why it became a classic. I mean, really, it's a play when nothing happens. And yet, how did it manage to get so much awards? How did it become such a classic? Because it's probably a just representation of our lives. Isn't that what we do? We are just sitting and talking. Have you seen people just sitting and talking on the park bench? They'll sit and they'll talk this and that and this and this. All the while waiting that something will happen. There may be two elderly gentlemen. They sit on the park bench. They'll say, ये हो रहा और मोदी ने ये किया और इसने वो किया और मणिपुर में ये हुआ और वो हुआ. And they're waiting for maybe their son to arrive or their daughter to arrive or their grandchildren to arrive, and they don't come. Next evening, again, they go and meet and talk and talk. And nothing happens. Now we understand that. What about us? When we go to office, we do so much activity, waiting maybe for the salary to arrive. We chase people, do so much activity, waiting for something to happen. That happens or it doesn't happen. Our state continues just the same. So how do you be santushta in life? When we can conceive something greater, nobler, vaster, when our mind is occupied by things that really do matter. And there's no point gossiping about all the bad things that happen. But if there is one thing that we can attend to and make better, why don't we do that? It's so easy, to sit down and say, ye itna bura hai, wo itna ganda hai, but karo na kuch. Get down to doing something. And the moment you get down to doing something with the concept of service, very strange, but that happiness which we have been pursuing so much in so many different ways comes and lights up your heart, just happy with life. And your circumstances may be exactly the same, no difference in your circumstances. But now you have learned contentment. Just to be content. It's very easy to say, one fellow got very, very disturbed. He says, all these people, they tell us, say, be content, be content. How do we be content? I cannot be content. So irritated he got. But there is a way for contentment. What is that way for contentment? How do you attain contentment?
Service.
When you have something larger, bigger, nobler than yourself to think about. And when you do that, that contentment just quietly.
Reducing and controlling one's desires, it makes one santusht, content. Because if I want more and more and more, so I will always be disappointed if I don't get it. So I should control my desires. इच्छाओं को हमें कम करना है. इच्छा किसी चीज की नहीं है. जो मिल रहा है प्रभु का शुक्र करके उसको हासिल ले लेना है. तेरी रजा में मैं भी रजा हूं. जो उसकी मर्जी में रहता है तो वो संतुष्ट रहता है. और जो हर वक्त कहता है हे भगवान ये नहीं मिला, तूने वो नहीं दिया, मुझे ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, वो कभी संतुष्ट नहीं हो सकता. भगवान से कहो जो तुमने दिया है वो मुझे कबूल है और मैं खुश हूं. I think that way one can be content.
Yes, there is a danger. Yes, correct. As far as this theory goes, that's correct. There is an issue with it, and the issue is that some people, not everybody, but some people who think like that get into what is known as pig's contentment. Pig's contentment means that I am content. I'm content and I'm not doing anything. I become a lazy, unproductive person. So contentment has always to be associated with aspiration. I am perfectly happy with my Maruti 800. And then I have something else to achieve. But if I'm merely content, I can become lazy. So we have to be very careful about that. Rashmi, you had a question? Rashmi, you've raised your hand. Have you got a question? So, santushta, being content, comes from working for a higher cause, having a higher aim, goal. And just the fact that we're working for something higher in life keeps the mind calm. Just the fact. Whether you achieve it, you don't achieve it, all that is a different thing. Just, yeah, that's fine, Rashmi. If you had a question, go ahead and ask it. You can ask audio also. As long as we are able to work for something beyond ourselves, we will be a happy people. All of us will be completely happy, regardless of whether we get it or not. To which many people argue and say that that's not true. Even if you're doing something good, you still want the result of whatever good action you're doing. And if you don't get the result, you'll still get discontented. Not really. When you're genuinely working for something higher, your ego is not involved in it whatsoever. You're just happy to do it. And you say, no, I don't agree. Then let me give you an example. Take somebody like Shahid Bhagat Singh. Shahid Bhagat Singh worked for independence, got caught in it, is going to be hanged for it, has not achieved independence and is going to lose his life. And when he walks to the gallows, do you think he's crying? He walks to the gallows like as if he's a Shahanshah walking to the throne. I don't know if you've seen, every time he goes like, like as if he's really somebody. Because that's genuinely how he will feel. He will feel supremely confident, supremely peaceful. That's how he feels. He's not faking it. But if a criminal was going to the gallows, how would he go, right? What emotion would he have? What fear will be in his heart that he's about to walk to his death? What will happen? Like, see the difference. Both are going to die only. One will walk like he's a king, and one will walk like he's broken. He can barely make it there on his own feet. So where does santushtata come from? Where does it come from? It comes from the vision that we have, a vision that is greater, nobler, vaster than ourselves, and we are working for it. And that combination of working for something greater than yourself, having the vision of something and working together, that gives great bliss to the heart. And you will see this bliss on the faces of most people who are working for some higher cause. You just see it. So he says, Santushta Satatam Yogi. He's a constant yogi. That means he's also now telling us, what is this thing this person is working for? If you want such supreme satisfaction, such supreme contentment, then you will have to work for the supreme itself. You can't say I'm working for my building society and I've not achieved supreme contentment. No, you please work for something supreme and then you will get supreme contentment. I mean, it's proportional, right? If you're working for your building, you'll be happier than the other people in your building. If you're working for your city, you'll be happier than the other people working in your city. If you're working for your state, you'll be happier than those in your state. If you're working for the supreme, you'll be happier than anybody else. So depends on how high your vision is. You can't fake it, right? You have to be genuine and honest about it. So who are you to fake it to? It's what you feel or what you don't feel. So nobody to fake anything to. So Satatam Yogi means his vision is of the Supreme. Always. Satatam, always. Yogi. Yogi is someone who's trying to connect himself to the higher being. However you want to conceive this, to the self, to Brahman, to Allah, to Father in heaven, however in the world you wish to conceive this thing. But you're trying to connect yourself to that ultimate truth. Satatam Yogi. Not going to the temple, church or mosque once a week, twice a week, twice a day, 5 times a day. No, Satatam. All the time. All the time. 365 days. 24 hours. You are woken up in the middle of the night and like, what do you want? And you say Brahman, then you're on the path. So all the time, there's only one wish. There's only one wish in that person's heart, which is self-realization. Okay, now we'll say we all fall in that category. We are all here because we want self-realization. So we are all Satatam yogis. So he gives the next quality, Yatatma. Yatatma means self-controlled. Rashmi, you raised your hand again. I don't know why.
Actually, I am learning Bhagavad Gita, and I have one question.
Go ahead.
किसी को बहुत प्रॉब्लम आती है लाइफ में, तो उन लोग क्यों बोलते कि भगवत गीता पढ़ो?
मुझे नहीं पता वैसे क्यों बोलते हैं। तो उनको खुद ही वो पूछोगे, खुद पढ़ी है क्या? When we have problems, you don't go to the Bhagavad Gita. You go to the Bhagavad Gita in the hope of preventing problems.
Actually, I am learning Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit from Gita Parivar.
Wonderful. So the idea is that if we learn what is Bhagavad Gita, it is a teaching on how to live life. When we meet problems in life, it is because we don't know how to relate to objects and beings. When we don't know how to relate to finances, then we have financial problems. When we don't know how to relate to human beings, we have relationship problems. When we don't know how to relate to knowledge, we have intellectual problems. So we have problems based on what we don't know how to relate to. The world is what it is. We have to learn to relate to it, right? Fire is hot. It is what it is. You have to learn to relate to it. If you know how to relate to it, fire is a great servant, isn't it? It helps you cook your food. It keeps you warm. It does so many wonderful things for you. And if you don't know how to relate to it, the same thing will make a chitta of the whole thing. So it is not the world, but our ability to relate to the world. And that's what the Gita teaches. How do you relate to this world? So therefore, maybe people are telling you, I don't know what they're telling you and why they're saying if you have a problem, you have to go to Gita. If you have a stomach ache, Gita ke paas jaakar kya karoge? You better go to a doctor. Depends on what is the problem. Okay, if the problem is physical problem, you need a physical solution. If it is a mental health problem, you may need to go to a mental health practitioner. If it's a spiritual problem, if it's a human problem, then the Gita will be of help. We need to know what is our problem and who will give us the right diagnosis and the right cure. Okay, Rashmi? Okay. Well, so Satatam Yogi. Satatam Yogi means that constant union with the self, the constant desire for self-realization, the constant desire for self-purification, for self-development. If we have understood this, these are all fundamental facts for us to get, that the world has no capacity to bother me. It doesn't possess this capacity. It doesn't have that power. What can bother me are my own imperfections. The world by itself has no power to bother me. Okay, there was all this massive COVID going around, right? And many people got COVID. And many people didn't get COVID. What is the difference between the people who got and the people who didn't get? The difference is their own immunity. If your immunity is very good, some people got it and they didn't even know they had it. Some people got it and it was just terrible. So different reactions, the power of COVID being the same, the different reactions we have based on our immunity. So the power of the world being the same, when we relate to the world, we have different reactions based on our internal strength. If we are full of imperfections, then how can we have a perfect life? How is that even possible? If I want a different type of life, I will have to be a different type of person. And if I've understood this basic fact, then I will spend my life adjusting my own personality to be the person I need to be, to get the things I need to get. There is no point saying, oh, oh, इसने मुझे मदद नहीं किया, इसने वो किया, उसने वो किया, I don't get support, I don't get this, I don't get that. People in much worse circumstances than us have done much, much better. Alexander Stolz, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Okay. He was given solitary imprisonment. Solitary imprisonment. Can you imagine that? I think he was in solitary imprisonment for, I don't know, like a decade or something. A horrible long period of time. Can you imagine living like that? And he comes out and wins the Nobel Prize. He writes a book and wins the Nobel Prize. How is this? And we, with all our wonderful house and all our wonderful thing, we are still writing. I plan to write a book. I plan to keep going on for years. So all the time, we blame our circumstances. We blame the people around us. We do not understand that if I'm not getting something, it is because I am lacking something. And if I fix that, this thing will fall on me in sackfuls. Dhirubhai Ambani began in a chawl. From where to where, right? Because he was the kind of person. So if you understood this fundamental principle in life, then what will you spend your life doing?
Improving myself.
Improving myself, Satatam Yogi. So when you read this, you say, oh, Satatam Yogi, पता नहीं क्या कर रहा होगा, शायद हिमालय में बैठा होगा, शायद उसके लंबे बाल होंगे और घेरवा कपड़े होंगे. No, Satatam Yogi only means you've understood this much, that my life is dependent on the kind of person I am. If I have any brains, I will improve this equipment. And when the equipment is better, naturally the results have to be better. What else is going to happen? Satatam Yogi. Always on the path to that supreme self-purification. Not sitting and thinking about it. Though. Most of us say, yeah, we are spiritual people. Well, spiritual people means what? I want to just hang out with other so-called spiritual people and then we will have fun together. Not like that. Yatatma. Yatatma means self-control. Self-control. Discipline. Formulating your actions based on your goal. Making your choices based on your goal. This is not like, you come to Gita and then just chill and relax or kitna acha lagta hai. No, acha lagta hai. Get down to work. No, so nice. Everything is so nice. People are so nice. No nice and bad. Get down to work. Yatatma, self-control. Are you getting up in the morning and studying? Are you doing a sadhana? Are you doing everything you need to do? That's what's important. Self-control means that you have chosen your actions based on your goal. What does that mean? It means you want to eat an ice cream. Your mind says, let me have an ice cream. Then you'll say, okay, fine, you can have an ice cream. But if for some reason this interrupts your process to your goal, you say no. That's called discipline. That's called self-control. You're free to do whatever in the world you want. There are no rules ki ye nahi kar sakte aur wo nahi kar sakte. You do whatever in the world you want. But if anybody, any act prevents you from reaching your goal, you say no to that. Suppose for argument's sake, your goal is to learn the Bhagavad Gita. So you've decided I'm going to attend these classes, right? And then on the Sunday morning, between 10:30 to 11:30, whoever tells you whatever, you will not do that because it is interrupting your own path to the goal. That is called yatatma. Yatatma means self-control. You are in control of yourself. And this will only happen if you're Drudha Nishchaya, that you have decided to do it. People, the problem with achievement, either material or spiritual, is that we haven't decided. We haven't decided what we want. Ye bhi chalega, wo bhi chalega. Nobody has achieved something because of this ye bhi chalega or wo bhi chalega. You have to make up your mind what you want. And single pointedly go in that direction. You don't look here, you don't look there. That is the only way to achieve anything, whether it is spiritual or it is material. Now, you'll say, no, I am very sure I want my spiritual goal. No. People can take us off our spiritual goal very easily. It's a very simple thing. There is a housewife, let us say. She has class from 10:30 to 11:30. Her husband has to go to office, unfortunately, on Sunday at the same time. For whatever reason, he says that today you can't go to your class because I have to go to office. Okay, whatever. She agrees to this. Did she do right or did she do wrong?
If she wants spiritual development, that was a wrong choice.
Depends on her goal.
Now think about it. Think very, very carefully. There are so many things, right? It cannot mean that you'll never adjust to your spouse. You have to adjust to your spouse also. It can also mean that you have no value for what you're doing. See, he's going to office, you are going to class, but in both your minds, going to office is more important than going to class. Therefore, at any point, one of these two have to be sacrificed. It's always the class. That shows the absence of Drudha Nishchaya. Okay, so does that mean anybody who adjusts with their spouse is done a wrong thing? No, because there are times where we have to adjust with people. But is this one of them? That is a question you have to ask yourself. 9 out of 10 times, people sell you their worldly goals more than you can sell them your spiritual goals. They will tell you, no, this is very important. What do you mean? This is, whatever I'm doing is not important. Whatever you're doing is important. So all along, it is the lack of value we have for what we are doing that makes people take us off the path. You try taking a materialistic person off his path. Never. He will not move. He believes in what he does. A spiritual person is ye bhi theek hai, wo bhi theek hai. Aise kaise kuch chalega. So Drudha Nishchaya. Do you value what you're doing? And if you don't value it, why do you do it? And if you do it, why don't you value it? I've heard so many people say, no, I cannot come because that person has to go for that, so therefore I cannot come. What do you mean that person has to go for that? How did that become more important? So Drudha Nishchaya means knowing for yourself what according to you is more valuable. Now, please don't misunderstand, okay? Don't have to become fanatic about it and say, oh my God, even if somebody in the family is having a heart attack, I will not miss class. Please, if there is an occasion where you need to do, please go ahead. But why are you doing it? Is it because there's a genuine need or because somebody tells you that something else is more important and you believe it, you buy it? I have seen it the other way around also. A mother is looking after her children and she tells her husband that you can't go to class because I have to do all this stuff. And he buys it. So it's either way. Rudresh, you have a question?
यस मैम, मैं हिंदी में बात कर सकता हूं तो बोलता हूं कि अगर उसको अपने स्पाउस को सर्व करने में हैप्पीनेस मिलती है तो वो भी सही है ना, अगर मिलती है तो। आई एम टेलिंग इट इज अ सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन। थैंक्स।
Everybody will do whatever gives them pleasure. But at the moment, we are discussing this quality of Drudha Nishchaya. Drudha Nishchaya means you will not move from what you think is right. If you think serving my spouse is right, you stay with that. No, why are you moving to anything else? So when we're talking about the qualities of a bhakta, it is Drudha Nishchaya in the pursuit of the Supreme, in the pursuit of the ultimate truth. वैसे तो जग में everybody is doing whatever उनको सुख दे रहा है, वो सभी कर रहे हैं. Having firm conviction. Sorry, clear about? I didn't get.
Clear about my queries.
Oh, you're clear. Okay. Okay. So, Drudha Nishchay. Are you sold on what you are doing? And when you are sold on what you are doing, nobody will take you off the path, your path, whatever that be. With mind and intellect dedicated to me. Mayarpita manobuddhihi. Mayarpita manobuddhihi. The qualities of the bhakta, please notice that intellect is mentioned. And when we did qualities of a jnani, if you remember, mind was mentioned. Because it is not that we are only intellect or only mind. We're both. So the mind must feel what the intellect conceives, and the intellect must understand what the mind feels. This has to work together. It cannot be one, my mind is running one way, intellect is running another way. But the mind feels what the intellect understands, and the intellect understands what the mind feels. They're both going in the same direction. It's like, if you have to cut some really hard thing, you put a little bit of oil on the knife or on the blade. It's the oil of devotion that you add to the sword of intellect that can cut asunder that ignorance from us. Mind and intellect devoted to me. If only mind is devoted, it will become a superstition. If only intellect works, then you are a philosophy professor. But when they are both together, then you are a spiritual sadhak. That means you understand it and you feel for it, and you're going in that direction. Mad Bhakta. Yeah, Mad Bhakta.
I had a question.
Yeah.
How can you not feel for it if you understand it?
Yes, if you understand it, you do feel for it, but there is also superficial comprehension. Like how people, it exists. Many people have superficial comprehension. They don't feel for it, so they don't get what it really means. So it's referring to that.
Okay.
Yeah, me bhakta, same priyaha. This my bhakta, this my devotee is dear to me. So it's given the qualities by which you are dear to the Lord. When are you dear to the Lord? When you have such qualities. He's got 35 of them, so not only these, but more are coming. And what does it mean he's dear to me? Dear to me doesn't mean that there is a sort of, what shall I say, a preferential attachment. God loves some people and doesn't love some people. If you're a Krishna Bhakt, then he likes you. If you're a Shiva Bhakt, he doesn't like you. Or if you're an Allah Bhakt, or if you are a Christ Bhakt, then he doesn't like you. But you notice over here, no such quality is given. That if you have these qualities, you are dear to me. If you're content, if you're a Satkam yogi, if you're self-controlled, you're Dridhanishchayaha, Mayyarpito Mano Buddhihi. You have surrendered your mind and intellect to the self. Whenever a man of perfection speaks first person singular, talks about I or me, he's referring to the self. So Mayyarpita. Mayyarpita means given to me. Given to me means given to the self, the mind and intellect. Why does he mean the self when he says I? How do you know he doesn't mean Mr. Krishna? He doesn't mean Mr. Krishna because he doesn't see that body, mind, and intellect as himself. When I say I'm feeling hot or I'm feeling cold, I mean that this body is feeling hot or cold. If I say I'm very happy or unhappy, I'm referring to my mind. If I say I'm very intelligent or I'm not very intelligent, I'm referring to my intellect. So, when I'm using the word I, I'm referring to this body, mind, intellect combined. When an enlightened person, when an Avatara Purusha talks about himself, he doesn't refer to this body, mind, intellect as himself. He is referring to the self, which is the same within all of us. So he says, if you have all these qualities, you're content, you're always striving, you're self-controlled, you're Dridhanishchaya, you have value for what you're doing, and your mind and intellect is both going in the same direction, such a bhakta, such a devotee is dear to me. Mad bhakta sa me priyaha. He is dear to me. What is dear to me mean? Does it refer to a preferential attachment? No, because there's nothing over here that indicates a preferential attachment, right? It's just talking about qualities. So what does it mean? You are dear to me means you are close to me. That means you're close to self-realization. You are approaching self-realization. So that closeness, that what is being dear? Identification, closeness. So how is it coming? You're getting closer and closer to the self. Therefore, he says, such a devotee is dear to me. Verse 15.
And such a statement will also be motivating when a bhakta reads it.
Yes. The whole thing is both intellectually as well as emotionally satisfying. Verse 15. Yasmano dvijate lokaha lokano dvijate chayaha harshamarshabhayo dvigaihi muktasya sacha me priyaha yasmano dvijate lokaha lokano dvijate chayaha harshamarshabhayo dvigaihi mukto yasacha me priyaha yasmat no na udvijate lokaha. By whom the world is not agitated. By whom the world is not agitated. Lokat na udvijate chayah. Who is not agitated by the world. From whom, by whom the world is not agitated. Means he does not agitate the world and the world does not agitate him. Harsha, Marsha, Bhayo, Dvegaihi. The joy, the envy, the fear, the anxiety. Muktaha. Muktaha means he's freed of these emotions. Sacha me priyaha. He goes on repeating, this person is dear to me, this person is dear to me. So, what is this first quality in this verse? We've come now to the 13th quality. Yasmat no dvijate lokaha. From whom the world is not agitated. Means he does not agitate the world. How is it that he does not agitate the world? Why is the world not agitated by him? Think about it. When do we agitate people? When we have strong desires, when we have selfishness, we want to take, we want to grab, we agitate others. Right? When are you agitated by others? You want to sleep, somebody is playing loud music. Not agitated, no? So, who agitates the world? People who have a strong tendency to take, to be selfish. Such people are agitating to the world. Suppose one fellow has come to your door with a begging bowl. Then you want to chase him away, right? You don't want him there. Chalo, chalo, nikalo yahan se. Why do people agitate us? Because they come to us with the wish to take. And who doesn't agitate us? Those who come to us with the wish to give. Suppose Bhavna comes to us, giving all of us a laddu. Nice laddu she brings from Jalandhar, right? Jalandhar? No, Mir.
Uttarakhand.
Huh? Uttarakhand. Where? I know now.
Uttarakhand.
Now you're in Delhi, right?
No, Pune.
Oh, now you're in Pune. Oh, yeah, symbiosis. Keep forgetting. Yeah, so, okay, she brings us nice mithai from North India. We're very happy with her. But she comes to our house and she eats up all our mithai. Then we will not be happy with her. So, who is agitated? When do we agitate people? When we have demands. Omkar, you had a question?
Yes, Jankiji. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but we don't, a bhakta not getting agitated is understandable, but a bhakta can very well agitate somebody, because if the bhakta's objective is clashing with the objective of the person, people near or dear to him. And we often hear stories about especially the spouses and the family of bhaktas not comfortable with the person's approach to life. So how does one explain that part? Because the bhakta is not fulfilling the desires of the people around him because of his or her desire for the higher.
Actually, that's not true. The bhakta does everything to fulfill the desires of the people around him. Because what else will he do? He has no kamdanda otherwise. If people around him don't have desires, what will that chap do? He has no desires of his own. So karega kya bichara? So only thing he can do is fulfill your desires. So he is always happy to fulfill your desires, and that is why people love him a lot. They're very attached to him. And that is why they get angry with him. It's a very, very interesting phenomenon that you get angry with the people who do the maximum for you. The child is angry with the mother. The child doesn't even get angry with the father because he never sees the father. But he gets angry with the mother. I mean, I better not sound sexist in today's world. The men will come against me. But in olden times, at least, the anger is to your mother. What anger do you have towards your father? Never saw him only. I mean, at least when we were children, right? Early morning, we went to school, he went to office. He came back late at night just before we were about to sleep. Where did we even meet him? On Sundays, he's busy doing something, or he may take you out somewhere. He was more like a occasional visitor in your life. All the fights you had was with whom? With your mom. So when people fight with the bhakta, it is because of their attachment to him. And they're so attached to him because he is the one who is, they're most comfortable with that person. That's why they fight with him. So he is not agitating anyone. Others have so many demands. And no matter how many he fulfills, they still have demands. Therefore, they sometimes get agitated. He is never agitated. In fact, a good example is Christ. Christ loved his 12. He had only 12 disciples. Imagine that. Only 12 disciples. And then of those 12 also, one betrayed him. Judas betrayed him, correct? Now he went and betrayed him for 30 pieces of silver or whatever that was. Then what did he do after that? He got his 30 pieces of silver. Christ went to jail. What did Judas do after that?
He killed himself.
He killed himself. Now think about that. Why are you killing yourself? Why did you have to commit suicide? You wanted to sell Christ. You sold him. You got your money. You got plenty of money actually. Now go and live a happy life, no? Why does he have to kill himself? Because at the bottom of all this is that Judas loves Christ. He's forced to love Christ because Christ loves him. So even when these people, these family members are against the bhakta, they actually are for the bhakta. They're not against him. They're very much for him because he's always a place of solace, is always a place of having your desires fulfilled. But then the mind being what it is, always asks for more. Okay, Omkar?
Yes, but you gave the reason why others are agitated, the family, but they are still agitated, right? So I'm wondering why this specific reference to he not agitating the world.
Because he's not. Okay, look at it like this. Water by its swabhav is cold, right? Now, if you go and sprinkle this cold water on a hot tawa, it will sizzle. That doesn't mean that the water is causing the heat to the tawa. The tawa is hot. What can the water do? Even as it sizzles, it's cooling that tawa down. So it's very, very important to be able to do cause and effect properly. So take an agitated person, put a bhakta in his presence, that agitated person will be less agitated than normal. So he's always a cooling influence. He's never a heating influence. But in the world, laws don't work singularly. No? They all work together. So therefore, you may see other results. But the causal relationship is this. The bhakta cannot agitate. He cannot. That will never happen.
So I'm fine if I tell Sheetal, I'm not agitating you. You are getting agitated on your own.
Yeah, you tell her that and you see the consequences. No, you're not fine if you tell her that. But the thing is, when you say that, you have to also take the stance that she won't agitate you. It can't be that I'm not agitating you, but you are agitating me. So if you say, I'm not agitating you, then you are not agitating me. If you say that, then okay, you stand some chance. But I would recommend not saying it in either case. Bhakta has no intention of agitating anyone. It's not only that he has no intention, he is incapable of agitating you because he's not making a demand on you. You are agitated because you are making some demands, but he is not making a demand. So how is he agitating?
Sankiri, so when Swamiji is having a strict schedule in the academy, the end result is, for the effect is that students do get agitated, but he is doing it for their welfare after all. So in that sense.
Yes and no. The schedule is not agitating anyone because they have demands which are unfulfilled. It is causing them agitation. But a disciplined life as a cause is always a soothing life. Discipline cannot agitate us. Discipline always soothes us. It's not so much about his intention, but actual cause and effect relationship. Ramesh Bijapur is agitating for the good cause bad. Ramesh is agitating for the good cause bad. You mean, if I am working for a good cause and therefore other people are getting agitated, is that bad? Is that what you're saying? Okay. When you work for a good cause, you're not agitating anyone. Good cause means I am doing things for your welfare. So why should that cause you agitation? Anybody is agitated only because their demands are not met. So when a person is generally working with an unselfish intent, he is actually satisfying more demands of people. But the mind is not finding satisfaction. Their mind is not finding satisfaction. Like a child, they don't mean to get agitated. Like a child, say, "Mummy, you're not giving me this, you're not giving me this." But actually that mummy is doing maximum for that baby. If the Dr. Gita Mohan, in continuation, if the mother is agitating the child, trying to bring in discipline, then is the child's agitation justified? The child's agitation is always justified. I mean, we are not justifying anything. We're just giving cause and effect relationships. Here is a person doing everything for you. So that aspect of it will be soothing to the mind. Here is you who have a lot of demands. That aspect will always be agitated. We're just identifying cause and effect relationships. We are not making any comment on any value judgment or giving any justification. The person who's unselfish will always be a soothing influence because he's doing for you from his perspective. From your perspective, you want a lot more. So you can get agitated. And you make demands like that only on people who are doing things for you. That's another very interesting thing about life. That the more the person does for you, the more demands we make on that person. And therefore get ourselves more agitated. Anyway, you have a whole week now to think of this point.